The rap game has seen countless rivalries over the years, but few have been as drawn out and as intense as the feud between Drake and Joe Budden. These two giants of hip-hop have clashed in a way that keeps fans glued to their screens and radios, eagerly waiting for each new development. In Drake's latest album, he takes another jab at Budden in a track titled Grime, reigniting the fire between them. The reaction from Joe Budden, who has never been one to back down from a challenge, was swift and direct, adding more fuel to a rivalry that's become one of the most fascinating in recent hip-hop history. The beef between Drake and Joe Budden didn't start with a bang, but rather with a critique. Back in 2016, Budden took to his podcast to voice his opinion on Drake's Views album. According to Budden, the album lacked the energy and substance that he had come to expect from Drake. Budden's take wasn't just casual criticism. It was sharp, pointed, and it cut deep. He accused Drake of sounding uninspired and disconnected, which, for someone who had long been at the top of the rap game, was a bold statement. Drake, known for his ability to turn anything into a moment, didn't take kindly to the criticism. The rapper, who has had his fair share of beefs throughout his career, began taking jabs at Budden in his music. The back and forth grew, with Budden releasing his own responses in the form of tracks and podcasts. It seemed like an ongoing war of words, with no real resolution in sight, and as the years passed, the tension simmered. That brings us to Drake's latest album, where he drops the track, Grime. It's a song that makes it clear Drake hasn't forgotten about Joe Budden. In fact, the lyrics of the song seem like a direct shot at the podcast host and former rapper. Drake's diss centers on Budden's transition from music to podcasting, with Drake insinuating that Budden's criticism comes from a place of bitterness and jealousy over his own career's trajectory. In essence, Drake accuses Budden of being stuck in the past, while he continues to rise in both the rap game and beyond. The line about Budden's transition from music to podcasting is particularly biting. In the song, Drake paints a picture of Budden as someone who couldn't keep up with the times, whose relevancy in the rap world faded, leading him to shift gears into podcasting. For Drake, this seems like the ultimate insult, suggesting that Budden, who once had his own place in hip-hop, is now relegated to talking about rap rather than making it. But Joe Budden isn't the type to let a diss slide without saying something. True to form, he responded almost immediately on his podcast, the Joe Budden Podcast. Budden took the time to break down the track, analyzing the lyrics and addressing Drake's shots. He didn't hold back, offering his own perspective on the matter and adding his own layer of commentary to the situation. His response was a mix of amusement and frustration. Budden laughed off the diss in some ways, but he also made it clear that he wasn't interested in rehashing a feud with someone he believes is no longer on his level. "Drake, don't shoot at me now that you're ice cold," he said, implying that Drake's star has lost some of its shine in recent years. Budden seemed to be saying that engaging in a back and forth with someone who was once dominant but now struggles would be a waste of his time. In another part of his response, Budden got even more direct. "I'm not doing a back and forth with a corpse," he declared, suggesting that Drake's current state in the game wasn't worthy of his attention. This line sent ripples through the hip-hop community, as fans and critics alike debated what Budden meant by it. Was it a clever dismissal, or was it an indication that Budden saw Drake's recent work as less relevant than it used to be? Despite the bravado, Budden's comments were still tinged with a sense of frustration. While he was clearly amused by the diss, he also understood the underlying issue. Drake was once the undisputed king of the rap game, but times change. Budden's criticism of Drake's music, coupled with Drake's subsequent jabs, speaks to the insecurities and challenges that come with being at the top of the rap game. For Budden, it was never just about music. It was about staying true to his own identity and finding fulfillment outside of the expectations that come with mainstream success. The dynamic between Drake and Budden also raises an interesting point about the evolving nature of hip-hop and the entertainment industry as a whole. Both men have shifted their careers in different ways. Drake, who once built his empire on being a rapper, has branched out into acting, business, and other ventures, while Budden has embraced his role as a media personality, becoming a voice for the culture through his podcast. Both artists have found success in different arenas, and their current careers reflect the changing nature of what it means to be a successful artist in today's world. In this context, the feud between Drake and Budden feels almost like a generational clash. Drake represents the new school of rap, with his chart-topping hits and global influence, while Budden represents a more traditional, hardcore approach to